I've had a few of you guys reach out to me about Calvin Ridley, so your wish is my command. Here we go. I wanted to give this story 24 hours to settle down a little bit. I prefer to let breaking news settle for at least 24 hours so I have time to get the full story. I don't care about being one of the first people to cover something. I like to get the most information possible so I can give you an informed opinion. This particular situation, I am uniquely qualified for since I monitor sports bettors every day. For those that don't know, Calvin Ridley was suspended for the entire 2022 NFL season for betting on the NFL. Now, that alone would be bad enough. To make matters worse, Calvin Ridley was betting games for the team that he played for. Well, KC, he was injured. He wasn't playing in those games. He wasn't even in the locker room with the team during that time he was betting. Doesn't matter. I have seen all the excuses that people have come up with for Calvin Ridley. None of it matters. If you are under contract to an NFL team, you can't bet on games. Period. It is as simple as that. Can't bet games that you're not involved in. You damn sure can't bet games involving your own team. How fucking stupid can you be? Calvin Ridley was going into a contract year. Atlanta had an option on him for this season, but this is normally the point where most players coming to the end of their rookie contract get a big money deal. Even still, on his rookie deal, Calvin Ridley on average was making $3 million a year. And you risk all of that betting $1,500 on games? Not even games, you're betting on parlays, which are surefire losers. Calvin Ridley took to Twitter to defend himself yesterday, and he said something to the effect of, "Don't worry, guys, I don't have a gambling problem. I was betting within my means. I was only betting $1,500 a game." I wish I could be that naive again. When it comes to addiction, there is a simple way to figure out whether or not you have a real problem. All you have to do is ask yourself one question. Does my habit negatively impact my life? If you answer yes, you have a problem. So let's look at Calvin Ridley. On the surface, with him averaging $3 million a year, betting $1,500 a game doesn't seem to be that big of a problem. But let's go back to the question. Does my habit negatively impact my life? Well, it just cost you a full season in the NFL, a league where you can be quickly forgotten. And not only did it cost you the $11.1 million you were set to make this season, it potentially cost you 40, 50, 60, maybe even $90 million. I don't know about you guys, but I would call that a problem. Obviously, I don't know Calvin Ridley personally, so I don't know if he can get a handle on his gambling problem on his own, or whether or not he realizes he even has a problem to begin with. Judging by his tweets, I'm going to assume the latter. He doesn't know he has a problem, which as a bettor, that is the worst mentality that you can have. Let me tell you how the mind of a sports bettor works. Give you a little insight into how this happens. I have seen this same situation hundreds of times. We will have a new player join up with the book. Just like Calvin Ridley, he starts small in comparison to his income. Last year, one of our clients was the manager of several car lots on the East Coast. He made about $250,000 a year, pretty good money. He starts small, betting between $200, $500 a game. Of course, he loses. Contrary to what all these shitfucks will tell you on Twitter, these so-called betting experts, all bettors lose. Every single one of them, they lose. So this guy, he goes from $500 a game to $1,000, then it's $1,250, $1,500, $1,750, $2,000. Instead of just betting the full game spread, he starts betting first half, second half, totals for each half. Next thing you know, he has 4 to 5 plays on one game at $2,000 a play. He's betting 5, 6 games a day. Do the math. Going into the second round of March Madness last year, he was down $42,000 for the week. Now, mind you, the 4 months that he had been playing with us, he had already lost about 50 grand. Now he ends up getting on a hot streak from Saturday to Monday between March Madness and the NBA. He had turned a $42,000 hole into a $10,000 surplus. Now at that point, we actually reached out to him, told him, hey dude, you need to quit while you're ahead. Take it as a sign that God or whoever you think is looking out for you gave you a free pass along with a $10,000 bonus. But he told us, don't worry, guys. I'm going to lower my bets. I'll keep it under control this time. So this story has a happy ending, right? He did lower his bets to about $500 a game. His hot streak continued for a couple of more days, but here's the problem. Here is where the mentality of a problem gambler takes over. You and I, we look at a $500 win as a $500 win. He looked at it as a $1,500 loss. I should have been betting $2,000 a game. I'm fucking myself. I'm losing money. What does he do? He starts betting $2,000 a game again. Over the next 3 weeks of March Madness, he lost $85,000. Now, does Calvin Ridley have the same problem? Considering the fact that his gambling cost him millions of dollars and he remains in denial, the answer is yes. Many in the media are attacking Roger Goodell right now for being too harsh on Calvin Ridley. This is uncalled for. This punishment is too severe. He should only be suspended for a handful of games. Roger Goodell is a damn tyrant. Chris Mad Dog Russo, he's one of the members of the mainstream media who believes Roger Goodell was too harsh on Calvin Ridley. Matter of fact, he calls it hypocritical. Check out what he had to say.
It's very hypocritical for the. Again, you want to make you want to go out there and you want to make you want to make him an example, and so you want to say, listen, we can't have our players making bets. All right, fair. But you go out there and you have them and you give them a 2 or a 4 or whatever it might be, a suspension, not for the year. That's a little rough. The NFL that is in bed with the gambling industry, in bed, anything to make more money. That's all they care about. Anything. Make an extra buck. They got Mariucci doing commercials, for crying out loud. Don't bet more than you can. It works the NFL Network. My God. Yet Ridley gets thrown out of the league for a year. Come on, Raj, please. Don't be a phony. Don't be a phony. At least acknowledge the fact, you know what, it's hard for us to throw Ridley out for a year when we make a fortune with gambling places. That's a little rough. You got to be fair. And if you think that Roger doesn't put a couple of bucks down once in a while, you think again. You think, well, hold on now. If that's the case, why don't we eliminate all the boxes at the Super Bowl? Everybody plays one of those dopey boxes. That's gambling. Yeah, it's a game of chance. That's gambling. You don't think Roger with his $45 million house in Maine doesn't go up there, well, he's not there, but, somewhere along the line, Raj doesn't have a relative, buy a box for $100? If you think that, you are smoking. He's got more boxes than you can shake a stick at.
Let's start off with the hypocritical part. The NFL is in bed with the gambling industry. They make hundreds of millions of dollars off gambling. How dare they suspend one of their players for doing something they promote? This is a real simple concept to understand. The NFL promotes gambling to their customer base, otherwise known as fans, not the fucking players. If you work at a sports book, you are not allowed to gamble at that sports book. Why? Because you have access to inside information. The information you have access to is invaluable. You know the trends, you see the action coming in, and you know which side the odds makers are trying to get the bettors to take. Calvin Ridley damn sure has inside information. He's betting on the fucking team that he plays for. But KC, the NFL said they found no evidence that Calvin Ridley had access to inside information. He was away from the team. Give me a break. What did you think the NFL was going to say? You think they were going to admit Calvin Ridley had an edge when betting and compromised the integrity of the league when it comes to gambling and odds? They're not going to admit that shit. Roger Goodell is going to do his best to try and minimize the damage as much as possible. Now let's get to the next point. Chris Russo said the NFL has Steve Mariucci starring in gambling commercials and he works for the NFL Network. Which is true, But Steve Mariucci doesn't work for an NFL team. Steve Mariucci is just a talking head on television, no different than Stephen A. Smith, Rich Eisen, Terry Bradshaw. He's not in an NFL locker room with access to behind-the-scenes information. Chris Russo then goes far off the rails, compares betting the spread on NFL games to betting squares, or boxes as he calls them. Yes, Chris, both are gambling, but this is a terrible comparison. When you're betting spreads, you are betting on the outcome of the game. Betting squares, or boxes as you say, you're just hoping the final score lands on your numbers. It is two completely different concepts. There's no edge to be found betting squares. It's just blind luck. There are plenty of ways to find an edge betting point spreads and totals. Chris Russo is obviously someone unfamiliar with how sports betting works. Now, I rarely defend Roger Goodell, but he made the right decision here. Matter of fact, I think he took it easy on Calvin Ridley. He could have, and some would argue he should have, banned him for life. That's what Major League Baseball did with Pete Rose when they busted him gambling. The only difference here, Pete Rose was actively managing the Reds and placing bets on their games. Calvin Ridley was down in Florida or home on his couch. Now, I know some people don't view NFL players betting games as a serious issue, but this is a serious issue because it causes the integrity of the game to be questioned. There is already a large contingent of people who believe professional sports are fixed. It's tough to disprove that notion when you have players betting on the damn games. Not to mention the fact you have Brian Flores accusing the Dolphins of tanking games. The optics of this are shitty for the NFL. Roger Goodell had to send a message. This will not be tolerated. And I'm having a hard time believing Calvin Ridley only bet games when he was injured. He was caught this time because he made bets from his phone on a damn app. Once again, how fucking stupid can you be? Sportsbooks damn sure don't want NFL players betting games. Did you not think that they were not going to turn you in? But who's to say Calvin Ridley hasn't been betting NFL games his entire career? Since he was injured, he felt comfortable enough to bet from his phone in his own name because he wasn't with his team. But when he's an active player, how do we know he hasn't been making bets through someone else, intermediaries? The NFL wants you to believe this is simply a one-time mistake, but I ain't buying it. Just like they always do, the media, they are trying to paint this as being the NFL's fault. The league decided to embrace gambling. These are the consequences. Yeah. Okay. You know, the NFL pretended for years, decades, like gambling didn't exist. Guess what? Fans still bet on games anyway, and I'm sure players did too and got away with it. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Was Roger Goodell too harsh on Calvin Ridley? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.